Graptolite is a marine organism which were primarily planktonic, that is, sort of floating freely in the sea. They lived between around about 500 and 350 million years ago. They were a very, very simple form of life, and a colonial organism, a little bit like a coral. You can look at the shape of graptolites and try and understand what sort of lifestyle they had, but it is essentially a form of guesswork in comparing with modern organisms that seem to have a similar sort of morphology. Using computer models, we can apply rigorous physical models to the shapes of these graptolites and constrain more highly the kind of lifestyles that they might have led. The long-term aim of the experiment is to use computer models to investigate how fluid flows over these graptolites. We know that they lived in the sea. We can tell that because of the rocks that we find them in association with. And we think that they were planktonic. They don't seem to have any visible way of propelling themselves around. But we don't understand exactly how they lived. So because they lived in a fluid medium, we can model fluid flowing over the graptolite, try and understand how the shape of the graptolite affected its mode of life.
So in the computer you could model a dinosaur, you can model something microscopic.
To turn a graptolite into a computer image, we CAT scan a model of it, and then we use the CAT scan to apply computational fluid techniques to in order to model flow over that shape, and then we try to understand how that flow tells us information about the ecology of the fossils. Everyone enjoys fossils, but very few people can bring them back to life, can understand them. And an awful lot of that work isn't done very well. It's done in an ad hoc way. We're doing it in a very quantitative way. In the immediate sense, these organisms lived at a time very different to ours, with a very different carbon cycle and a very different level of climate control. And by starting to understand climate at that time, we get a reflection of an understanding of climate at this time, when climatic change is very important and a very important topic to understand.
From relatively simple tools, we can bring different disciplines together to look at organisms that aren't available for study anymore and discover a huge amount about their lifestyle and what the environment of the world was like in the past, which is ultimately what we want to get at by studying these fossil creatures.